Hello, and thank you for choosing this heartfelt romance by C.E.Mallery. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support is appreciated and helps us continue bringing you more captivating tales, completely free. In each story are bits and pieces of true accounts of my personal life. So grab a pillow and make yourself at home and let your imagination transport you to a world of love, courage, and adventure in a time long past. Enjoy the story. Chapter 1. The Blackberry Rose. The sun was already high in the sky, burning off the dew from the early morning on the endless rows of blackberry bushes. The air was thick with the hum of crickets and the sticky heat of a July morning in Raytown, Alabama. It was only 8 a.m., but the temperature was already climbing past 80 degrees. Workers moved through the fields, their hands quick and practiced as they plucked ripe berries from the thorny bushes. It all depended on quickness as to how much money they would make. Among them was Bella, her red hair catching the sunlight like a flame. Bella stood out in the field, not just because of her striking appearance, although she was the only fair-skinned one there, but because of the way she moved, deliberate and careful, but just a tad slower than the others. Her beautiful dress, though dusty from the work, was clean and modest, a reminder of the life she had left behind. Thinking, I'm going to ruin all my dresses if I keep working in them like this. She wiped the sweat from her brow, her blue eyes scanning the bushes for the ripest berries. A few rows over, Milo worked with the energy of a man who had something to prove. His dark hair was damp with sweat, but he didn't seem to mind. He glanced at Bella every so often. His extra white teeth shone brightly as he smiled at her. "You're gonna have to pick faster than that, Miss Bella," Milo called out, his voice teasing. "Or Mr. Eastman'll have your head." Bella looked up, smiling despite the heat. "I'm doing my best, Milo. These thorns don't make it easy." Anthony, Milo's cousin, was working nearby. He was humming a cheerful tune, his movements light and carefree. He laughed at Milo's comment. "Don't mind him, Bella. Milo just likes to show off. He thinks he's the fastest picker in the whole field." "That's because I am," Milo said, grinning as he straightened up. "Ain't nobody here who can keep up with me." Bella raised an eyebrow, her smile turning playful. "Is that so? Maybe I'll surprise you one day." Milo stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Bella could hear. "You already surprise me, Bella, every day." Bella's cheeks flushed slightly, but before she could respond, a booming voice cut through the air. "Milo, Anthony, quit your yappin' and get back to work. I'm not paying you to flirt and sing." The voice belonged to Mr. Eastman, the boss of the blackberry fields. He was a towering man with broad shoulders and a scowl that seemed permanently etched on his face. He stomped into view, his hands on his hips as he surveyed the workers. "And you, girl," he said, his sharp eyes landing on Bella. "You're too slow. If you can't keep up, you'll be out of here by the end of the week." Bella met his gaze calmly, her voice steady. "I'll do better, Mr. Eastman." "See that you do," he grunted before turning to bark orders at another group of workers. The tension lingered in the air for a moment before Anthony broke it with a laugh. "See that you do," he said, mimicking Mr. Eastman's gruff tone. "That man's got a heart made of blackberry thorns." Bella smiled faintly, shaking her head. "He's just doing his job, I suppose." Milo stepped closer to her, his voice soft. "You don't belong here, Bella. You're too good for this place." Bella turned to him, her blue eyes steady. "Maybe I don't, but I'm here now." Milo opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, the sound of Mr. Eastman's voice shouting at another worker reminded them both that there was no time for conversation. Bella turned back to her row, her hands moving more quickly now as she picked the berries. Milo watched her for a moment longer before returning to his own work, his thoughts lingering on the girl who didn't seem to belong in the blackberry fields but had chosen to be there anyway. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the heat became almost unbearable. The workers moved like shadows through the rows, their hands stained with the juice of the berries. Bella's fingers ached and were tore up by the thorns. She thought, "Oh my, how can they do this all day, every day?" Her dress clung to her back, but she didn't stop. She had made her choice to be here, and she wasn't going to let anyone, least of all Mr. Eastman, think she couldn't handle it. By the time the midday bell rang, signaling a short break, Bella was exhausted. She found a shady spot under a tree and sat down, her legs trembling from the morning's work. Her shoes were dirty and was wet from sweat from head to toe. Milo appeared a moment later, carrying a small bundle of berries. "Here," he said, handing them to her. "You didn't pick enough today, so I saved some of mine for you." Bella looked at the berries, her expression a mix of gratitude and hesitation. "Milo, I can't take these. You worked hard for them." Milo shrugged, sitting down beside her. "So did you. Besides, I don't mind." Bella took the berries, her smile softening. "Thank you." Milo leaned back against the tree, his dark eyes watching her. "You know, you don't have to stay here. You could go back to your fancy house, your nice clothes. This life, it's not for someone like you." Bella met his gaze, her voice firm. "I chose to be here, Milo. I wanted something different, something real. Plus, I really don't mind the hard work." Milo smirked, shaking his head. "And you think this is real? Sleeping on the ground, working till your hands bleed?" "Yes," Bella said, her voice steady. "It's hard, but it's honest. Plus, I love the food," giving him a smirk. Milo looked at her for a long moment, his expression softening. He reached out and took her hand, his touch gentle. "You're something else, Bella," he said quietly. Bella didn't pull her hand away. For a moment, the heat and the exhaustion and the endless rows of blackberry bushes faded into the background. But the moment didn't last. The bell rang again, signaling the end of the break. Bella and Milo stood, their hands falling apart as they returned to the fields. As Bella bent to pick the berries, she couldn't help but wonder if she had made the right choice in coming here. But when she glanced over at Milo, his dark eyes meeting hers with a spark of something she couldn't quite name, she thought that maybe, just maybe, she had. New job, new people, and wide variety of delicious food and a new way of life. Chapter 2. The Campfire Glow. In the evening, as the day's work was done, the crews began leaving the blackberry fields. The workers trudged slowly back to the camp, their baskets emptied of berries and their bodies heavy with exhaustion. The camp itself was a patchwork of wagons, tents, and makeshift shelters, scattered across a clearing near the edge of the fields. Smoke from small cooking fires curled into the air, carrying the scent of roasted vegetables and flatbread. Children ran barefoot through the camp, their laughter a rare sound of joy in a place defined by hard work and survival. Bella walked slowly, her basket slung over her arm. Her dress was streaked with dirt and her hands were scratched and stained from the day's work. She glanced around the camp, taking in the sight of families gathered around fires, sharing meals and stories of where they came from and where they had been, even some of their favorite places to pick. It was a simple life, but there was a sense of community here. It seemed as though everyone knew or was related to everyone else. Families knew families and traveled together up and down the coast. "Bella?" She turned to see Anthony waving her over to a fire where he and Milo were sitting. Anthony's cheerful grin was as bright as the flames, and Milo's dark eyes sparkled even brighter in the firelight. Bella hesitated for a moment before making her way over. Her heart sped up slightly as Milo scooted over to make room for her. "Come on, sit down," Anthony said, patting the log beside him. "Look at your hands," he said with a grin. "You've earned it after today?" Bella smiled and sat down, smelling the food over the fire. "Smells delicious," she said. While Milo had a stick with meat on it over the fire, Anthony handed her a piece of flatbread, and she took it with a, "Oh, thank you, I'm so hungry." "You're getting better at this, you know," Anthony said, tearing into his own piece of bread. "I saw you out there today. You're faster than you were last week." Bella laughed softly. "That's not saying much. I was terrible when I started." "You're still too slow," Milo said, his tone teasing. "But you're tougher than I thought you'd be. Usually everyone new can't handle it and is gone by lunchtime." Bella raised an eyebrow and started to smile. Is that supposed to be a compliment? Milo smirked, leaning back against the log-acting macho. Take it however you want. Anthony chuckled, shaking his head. Don't mind him, Bella. Milo's just mad because you're catching up to him. Milo shot Anthony a look, but there was no real heat in it. Bella watched as the two cousins bantered back and forth, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire. As the evening wore on, the camp grew quieter. The children were called to bed, and the fires burned lower, and people slowly disappeared. Bella found herself sitting alone with Milo. She could hear the crickets begin to chirp. It was in the silence that she knew he wanted to ask her something. You really don't miss it? Milo asked suddenly, his voice low. Bella turned to him, her not really understanding him said, Miss what? Your old life? Milo said, gesturing vaguely. The fancy house, the nice clothes, the comfort. Bella was quiet for a moment, her gaze fixed on the fire. I thought I would, she admitted. But I'm the last of 3 children and things began to get boring ever since my sisters got married off. I don't get to see them much anymore. Here, it's different. The families are together. Milo studied her, his expression unreadable. You're different, Bella. Most people wouldn't give up a life like that for this. Bella met his gaze, her blue eyes steady. Maybe I'm not like most people. Milo smiled faintly, a rare softness in his expression. No, you're not. For a moment they sat in silence, the firelight dancing between them. Bella felt a strange sense of peace, despite the challenges of the day. But the moment was interrupted by the sound of heavy footsteps. Mr. Eastman appeared out of the shadows, his broad shoulders and towering frame casting a long shadow over the fire. Bella, he said, his voice gruff. A word. Bella stood, her heart sinking. She followed Mr. Eastman a few steps away from the fire, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. You're improving, Mr. Eastman said, his tone begrudging. But you're still not fast enough. If you want to stay here, you'll need to pick up the pace. I don't have room for dead weight. Bella nodded, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. I understand, Mr. Eastman. I'll do better. See that you do, he said before turning and walking away. Bella watched him go, her shoulders sagging slightly. When she returned to the fire, Milo was waiting for her, his expression dark. What did he want? Milo asked. Just to remind me that I'm not good enough. Bella cocked her head and said with a small bitter smile. Milo's rolled his eyes. Don't listen to him. You're doing just fine. Bella looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you, Milo. He shrugged, but there was a softness in his eyes that betrayed his nonchalance. Get some rest, Bella. Tomorrow's another long day. Bella nodded, standing and brushing off her dress. As she made her way to her small tent, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. The work was hard and the days were long, but for the first time in her life, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Chapter 3. The Braided Women. Another hot morning rose over the blackberry fields as the people were beginning to start their day. Bella woke to the sound of voices outside her tent, sharp, hushed whispers that carried a tone she couldn't ignore. She sat up, brushing her red hair out of her face and strained to hear. She doesn't belong here, one woman said, her voice low but laced with anger. She's just here to take what isn't hers, another chimed in. She thinks she's better than us, with her fancy ways and her pretty face. Bella's stomach twisted. She had felt the stares, the cold shoulders, the way the other women avoided her, but this was the first time she'd overheard their words so clearly and what they really thought. Stepping out of her tent, Bella saw a small group of women gathered near one of the cooking fires. They stopped talking the moment they saw her, their eyes narrowing. Bella hesitated, then forced herself to walk past them, her head held high. Good morning, she said, her voice polite but firm. The women didn't respond. One of them, a tall woman with dark braids and a sharp glare, whispered something in her native language. The others laughed, their eyes never leaving Bella. Bella felt her cheeks flush, but she kept walking. She had learned early on that showing weakness only made things worse. Later that day, as the workers returned to the fields, the tension boiled over. Bella was picking berries in her usual row when she heard raised voices nearby. She turned to see two women arguing, their gestures animated and their words sharp. "She doesn't belong here!" one of them shouted, pointing in Bella's direction. "She's not one of us!" "She's not hurting anyone," the other woman argued. "Leave her alone." "She's taking our men," the first woman snapped. "First Milo, and who's next? Anthony, my brother? She's just here to cause trouble." Bella froze, her heart pounding. She wanted to defend herself, but the words caught in her throat. Before she could say anything, Milo appeared, his dark eyes flashing with anger. "What's going on here?" he demanded, stepping between the women. "She doesn't belong here, Milo," the first woman said, her voice trembling with rage. "She's not one of us, and she never will be." Milo got angry. "Bella's here because she wants to be. She's working just as hard as anyone else, and she's not bothering anyone." "She's bothering us," the woman shot back. "She's taking you away from your own people." Milo's voice dropped, low and dangerous. "That's enough." The woman glared at him, but she didn't say anything else. With a huff, she turned and stormed off, the others following her. Milo turned to Bella, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" Bella nodded, though her hands were trembling. "I'm fine." "You don't have to listen to them," Milo said, his voice gentle. "They're just jealous." Bella looked at him, her blue eyes filled with doubt. "Maybe they're right, Milo. Maybe I don't belong here." Milo stepped closer, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "You belong here with me. Don't let them make you think otherwise." Bella wanted to believe him, but the weight of the women's words pressed heavily on her. "It's not just them, Milo. Everything here is so different. The way people talk, the way they live. I don't understand half of what's being said around me. I feel like an outsider." Milo reached out and took her hands, his touch steady and reassuring. "You're not an outsider to me, Bella. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I want you here, with me." Bella searched his face, looking for any sign of doubt, but all she saw was sincerity. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why do you want me here?" Milo hesitated, his expression uncharacteristically vulnerable. "Because you're different, Bella. You're strong and kind, and you don't care about what people think. You make me want to be better." Bella felt her heart swell, but the doubt lingered. What if it's not enough? What if I can't handle this life? Milo's grip on her hands tightened. "Then I'll help you. We'll figure it out together." For a moment, Bella didn't say anything. She looked at Milo, at the determination in his eyes, and felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she didn't have to do this alone. That evening, the camp was quieter than usual. The tension from the day still hung in the air, but Bella felt a strange sense of calm as she sat by the fire with Milo. "Thank you," she said quietly, breaking the silence. Milo looked at her, his expression puzzled. "For what?" "For standing up for me," Bella said. "For believing in me." Milo shrugged, but there was a softness in his eyes. "You don't have to thank me for that, Bella. Those women are just busy bodies." Bella smiled, a small but genuine smile. For the first time in days, she felt like she was going to be okay. But as she looked around the camp, at the wary glances and whispered conversations, she knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The opposition was far from over, and the life she had chosen was full of challenges. Still, as she sat beside Milo, his presence steady and reassuring, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could find her place here, and Milo would protect her. Chapter 4. Determination. Bella found herself back in the blackberry fields as the light came up this morning. She woke up with a determination today. She stood at the edge of the field, her basket in hand, her red hair tied back in a loose braid and a hat to guard her from the scorching sun. She had made up her mind. She wasn't going to let the whispers, the stares, or the cold shoulders break her. She was here to stay, and she was going to prove it. As the workers began their day, Bella moved quickly, her hands quickly plucking the ripe berries from the bushes. Her fingers were calloused now, her movements faster and more efficient than they had been when she first arrived. She had learned to ignore the thorns, to push through the heat, and to keep her head down. But today, she wasn't going to keep her head down entirely. She had a plan. During the midday break, Bella approached a group of women sitting under a tree, their voices low as they shared food and conversation. Among them was the tall, braided woman who had been the loudest in her opposition to Bella. Her name was Lila, and her sharp eyes narrowed as Bella approached. "Good afternoon," Bella said, her voice steady but warm. The women exchanged glances, their expressions wary. "What do you want?" Lila asked in a sharp tone. Bella held out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. "I made some biscuits this morning. I thought you might like to try them." Lila raised an eyebrow, clearly suspicious. "Biscuits?" Bella nodded, unwrapping the bundle to reveal the golden, flaky treats. "I know it's not much, but I wanted to share. I thought maybe we could start over." The women hesitated, their eyes flicking between Bella and the biscuits. Finally, one of them, a younger woman with a shy smile, reached out and took one. "Thank you," she said softly, taking a bite. Her eyes widened. "These are really good." The others, including Lila, slowly followed suit, each taking a biscuit. Lila bit into hers reluctantly, but her expression softened as she chewed. "They're not bad," she admitted grudgingly. Bella smiled, feeling a small flicker of hope. "I'm glad you like them. I want to get along. I know I'm different, but I'm here to work, just like you." Lila studied her for a long moment before nodding slightly. "We'll see." It wasn't much, but it was a start. Back in the fields, Bella worked harder than ever, determined to prove herself. Milo watched her from a few rows over, a small smile tugging at his lips. "You're getting good at this," he said as they walked back to the camp that evening. Bella shrugged, though she couldn't hide her pride. "I've had good teachers." Milo chuckled. "You're too modest. You've got more determination than half the people here." Bella glanced at him, her cheeks flushing. "Thank you, Milo, for everything." Milo stopped walking, turning to face her. "You don't have to thank me, Bella. I told you, I want you here. With me." Bella hesitated, then nodded. "Then I'll stay. With you." From that night on, Bella moved into Milo's tent. It was small and simple, but it felt like a sanctuary. For the first time since she had arrived, she felt like she had a place where she belonged. The next morning, the camp was buzzing with laughter and chatter. Anthony, Milo's cousin, had managed to injure himself in the most ridiculous way possible. "I told you to slow down," Milo said, shaking his head as Anthony hobbled around on one foot, his other ankle wrapped in a bandage. "I can't help it," Anthony said, grinning despite his injury. "I'm just too fast for my own good." "You're too reckless for your own good," Milo shot back. Anthony ignored him, his attention focused on a girl from Lila's family. She was sitting by a fire, her dark hair braided neatly, her eyes downcast as she worked on mending a shirt. "Hey, Maria," Anthony called out, limping over to her. "You're looking extra pretty today." Maria glanced up, her cheeks flushing. "Go away, Anthony." "Aw, don't be like that," Anthony said, grinning. "I'm just trying to brighten your day." Maria rolled her eyes, but there was a hint of a smile on her lips. Milo groaned, grabbing Anthony by the arm and pulling him away. "Leave her alone, Anthony. Her mama will skin you alive if she catches you bothering her." Anthony laughed, unbothered. "What can I say? I like a challenge." Milo shook his head, muttering under his breath. "You're going to get yourself killed one of these days." Bella watched the exchange, laughing softly. "He's persistent." "That's one word for it," Milo said, rolling his eyes. As the days passed, Bella continued to work hard, slowly earning the respect of the other women. She shared meals with them, listened to their stories, and even learned a few words of their language. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of tension, but she was determined to make it work. Milo remained her constant support, always ready to defend her when needed. And Anthony, despite his injury, kept the camp entertained with his antics and his relentless pursuit of Maria. One evening, as Bella and Milo sat by their fire, she looked around the camp, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. "I think I'm starting to fit in," she said softly. Milo smiled, his dark eyes warm. "I told you, Bella, you belong here." Bella leaned against him, and her was heart full. Chapter 5. The Rainy Season. The first drops of rain came in the early hours of the morning, pattering softly against the canvas of the tents. Bella stirred in her sleep, the sound pulling her from her dreams. By the time she and Milo stepped outside, the rain had turned into a steady drizzle, soaking the ground and turning the dirt paths into slick, muddy trails. The camp was alive with groans and complaints as workers peeked out of their tents, assessing the weather. The sky was a dull gray, heavy with clouds that promised more rain to come. "Looks like it's going to be one of those days," Milo said, pulling his hat lower to shield his face from the rain. Bella wrapped her shawl tightly around her shoulders, already feeling the dampness seeping into her clothes. "Do we still go to the fields?" Milo shrugged. "We wait and see. If it lets up, we work. If not—" He trailed off, his expression grim. By mid-morning, the rain hadn't stopped. Workers gathered under the largest tent in the camp, their voices a mix of frustration and resignation. Bella sat beside Milo, her hands clasped tightly in her lap as she listened to the conversations around her. "This is useless," Lila said, her tone sharp. "We're just sitting here wasting time. We should have stayed in bed." "And missed the chance to stand in the mud all day?" Anthony chimed in, grinning. "What a tragedy." Lila looked at him. "Not all of us can afford to waste a day, Anthony. Some of us have families to feed." Anthony held up his hands in mock surrender. "Hey, I'm just trying to lighten the mood." "Well, don't," Lila snapped. "This isn't funny." Bella glanced at Milo, who gave her a small, reassuring smile. "It's always like this during the rainy season," he said quietly. "People get on edge. Too much time sitting around, not enough work." Bella nodded, her gaze drifting to the muddy path leading to the fields. "What happens if it doesn't stop?" Milo sighed. "Then we lose the day. No work, no pay." By noon, the rain had slowed to a light drizzle, and Mr. Eastman appeared, his towering frame silhouetted against the gray sky. "All right, listen up," he barked, his voice cutting through the chatter. "The rain's letting up, so we're heading to the fields. Get your baskets and get moving." The workers groaned but obeyed, grabbing their baskets and trudging toward the fields. Bella followed Milo, her shoes sinking into the mud with every step. The fields were a mess. The rows of blackberry bushes were slick with rain, the fruit glistening but damp. The ground was soft and uneven, and every step threatened to pull Bella's shoes off her feet. "This is impossible," Lila muttered as she bent to pick berries, her hands already stained with mud. "Just keep moving," Milo said, his voice steady. "The faster we work, the sooner we're done." Bella focused on her task, her fingers working quickly despite the rain and the wet. But the rain returned, heavier this time, soaking her dress and making it even harder to move. "Bella, keep the berries covered," Milo called out, pointing to her basket. Bella nodded, pulling a piece of cloth over the fruit to keep it dry. But the rain was relentless, and the cloth quickly became soaked. "This is ridiculous," Anthony said, his voice carrying over the sound of the rain. "We're not picking berries, we're swimming in mud." "Then go home," Lila snapped, her tone biting. "No one's forcing you to be here." Anthony grinned. "And miss all this fun? Never." Bella couldn't help but laugh, despite the miserable conditions. But her laughter was cut short when her foot sank deep into the mud, and she felt her shoe slip off. "Great," she muttered, pulling her foot free and reaching into the mud to retrieve her shoe. Milo appeared beside her, his dark eyes filled with concern. You okay? Bella held up her muddy shoe, her expression wry. I've been better. Milo chuckled, helping her steady herself. You look funny, Bella. Thanks, she said, slipping her shoe back on. I think. By the end of the day, the workers were soaked, muddy, and exhausted. The rain had finally stopped, but the damage was done. The fruit was wet, the baskets were heavy, and the ground was a mess. As they trudged back to the camp, Bella overheard snippets of conversation. I'm done, one man said, shaking his head. I'm going home. This isn't worth it. Me too, another woman agreed. I can't keep doing this. Bella glanced at Milo, her heart sinking. Do you think they'll come back? Milo shrugged. Some will, some won't. That's how it is during the rainy season. People get tired of fighting the mud and the rain, so they go work somewhere else. Bella nodded, her resolve hardening. She wasn't going to give up, not now. That evening, the camp was quieter than usual. Many of the workers had gone home, leaving the remaining families to huddle around their fires, trying to dry their clothes and warm their hands. Anthony, his foot still bandaged from his earlier injury, was in rare form, teasing Maria relentlessly. Hey, Maria, he called out, limping over to her. You looked real pretty out there in the mud today. Maria rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed. Go away, Anthony, as she stared steadily at Milo. Aw, come on, Anthony said, grinning. I'm just trying to be nice. Milo, smiling back at her, grabbed Anthony by the arm and pulling him away. Leave her alone, Anthony. Her mom is going to come after you with a frying pan if you don't stop. Anthony laughed, unbothered. What can I say? I like living dangerously. Bella watched the exchange, laughing softly. Despite the challenges of the day, there was still a sense of camaraderie in the camp, a shared determination to keep going. As she sat by the fire with Milo, her clothes still damp and her body aching, she felt a strange sense of pride. She had made it through the day, and she wasn't going to let the rain, or anything else, stop her. I've got something to tell you, Bella, Milo said in his soft voice. You did really good today. Milo wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. Bella smiled, leaning against him. Oh yeah, she said. I've got something to tell you too. She leaned into him. We're going to have a baby. Chapter 6. The Long Road to Michigan. The rain had not stopped for days. The once bustling blackberry fields were now a swamp of mud and despair. The fruit was ruined, the baskets sat empty, and the workers were restless. One by one, families began packing up their belongings, their wagons creaking under the weight of their meager possessions. The rainy season had driven them to seek work elsewhere, and whispers of apple orchards in Michigan spread like wildfire through the camp. Bella sat under the shelter of Milo's tent, her hands resting on her growing belly. The rain drummed against the canvas, a constant reminder of the life they were leaving behind. Milo crouched nearby, tying up a bundle of supplies. We're leaving tomorrow, he said, his voice steady but distant. The families are heading north. There's work in Michigan, apple picking. It'll be better than sitting here waiting for the rain to stop. Bella looked at him, her heart heavy. Do you want me to come with you? Milo paused, glancing at her. Of course I do. You're with me now, Bella. We're in this together. His words were reassuring, but there was something in his tone that made Bella uneasy. She nodded, forcing a smile. All right, I'll come. The journey north was long and grueling. The wagons creaked and groaned as they rolled over muddy roads and uneven terrain. Bella sat beside Milo, her back aching from the constant jostling. Anthony rode in the back of their wagon, his bandaged foot propped up on a sack of supplies. Are we there yet? Anthony called out for the third time that morning, a grin plastered across his face. Milo rolled his eyes. If you ask that one more time, I'm leaving you on the side of the road. Anthony laughed, unbothered. You'd miss me too much. Bella couldn't help but smile at Anthony's antics, but her mind was elsewhere. She had noticed a change in Milo over the past few days. He was quieter, more distant. He still helped her into the wagon and made sure she had enough to eat, but the warmth in his eyes seemed to have faded. At first, Bella thought it was because of the stress of the journey, but then she noticed the way Maria, the sweet, shy girl from Lila's family, glanced at Milo when she thought no one was looking, and worse, the way Milo sometimes glanced back. Bella's heart sank. She tried to push the thoughts away, telling herself she was imagining things. But the nagging doubt lingered, growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, as the group stopped to rest by a river, Bella sat alone by the water, her hands resting on her belly. The baby was a constant reminder of the life she and Milo were building together, but now she wasn't sure what that life would look like. Anthony limped over, his grin as wide as ever. "You look like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, Bella." Bella managed a small smile. "Just tired, that's all." Anthony plopped down beside her, his injured foot stretched out in front of him. "Tired of the road or tired of Milo?" Bella shot him a sharp look, but Anthony just laughed. "Relax, I'm kidding. Mostly." Bella sighed, her shoulders slumping. "It's just, he's been different lately. Distant. I don't know if it's because of the baby or—" She trailed off, not wanting to say the rest out loud. "Or because of Maria?" Anthony finished for her, his tone surprisingly gentle. Bella looked at him, startled. "You noticed?" Anthony shrugged. "I notice everything. It's a gift." Bella shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "What am I supposed to do, Anthony? We're already on the road, I can't just turn back." Anthony leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "Milo's a good guy, Bella, but he's also a guy. Sometimes they get stupid ideas in their heads. Doesn't mean he doesn't care about you." Bella frowned, unsure if that was supposed to make her feel better. Anthony grinned, nudging her shoulder. "Don't worry, if he steps out of line, I'll knock some sense into him, bad foot and all." Bella couldn't help but laugh, the sound easing some of the tension in her chest. As the journey continued, Bella tried to focus on the baby and the road ahead, but the distance between her and Milo grew harder to ignore. He still spoke to her, still helped her when she needed it, but the easy camaraderie they had shared seemed to have vanished. One afternoon, as they stopped to rest, Bella finally confronted him. "Milo," she said, her voice firm. "What's going on?" Milo looked at her, his expression guarded. "What do you mean?" "You've been different," Bella said, her blue eyes searching his face. "Distant. Is it because of the baby? Or is it something else?" Milo hesitated, his gaze flicking toward the other wagons. Bella followed his eyes and saw Maria, sitting with her family, her dark eyes glancing their way. Bella's heart sank. "It is, isn't it?" "It's her." Milo sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Bella, it's not what you think. Maria's she's nice, that's all." Bella's voice trembled. "And I'm not?" Milo's eyes widened. "That's not what I meant. Bella, you're everything to me. But this life, it's hard, and sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, dragging you into it." Bella stared at him, her heart breaking. "You didn't drag me into anything, Milo. I chose this. I chose you." Milo reached for her hand, his grip firm. "And I chose you, Bella. Don't doubt that. Please." Bella wanted to believe him, but the doubt lingered. She nodded, forcing a smile. "All right." As the wagons rolled on, Bella tried to push her fears aside. Anthony's humor kept the group's spirits up, and even Milo seemed to relax a little. But Bella couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them, and she wasn't sure if it could ever go back to the way it was. The orchards of Michigan were just days away, but for Bella, the journey felt far from over. Chapter 7. Unending Tulips. The wagons creaked to a stop just outside Holland, Michigan, as the warm spring breeze carried the sweet scent of tulips through the air. Bella leaned forward, her eyes widening as she took in the sight before her. Fields of vibrant tulips stretched as far as the eye could see, their colors painting the landscape in shades of red, yellow, pink, and orange. The sun was shining, the sky was a brilliant blue, and for the first time in weeks, Bella felt a sense of peace. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her hand resting on her growing belly. Milo, sitting beside her, nodded but said nothing. His eyes were fixed on the road ahead, his expression unreadable. Anthony, perched in the back of the wagon, let out a low whistle. "Well, would you look at that? It's like something out of a painting. Maybe I'll settle down here. Find myself a nice Dutch girl." Bella laughed softly, shaking her head. "You'd drive her crazy within a week." Anthony grinned. "Probably, but it'd be a fun week." As they rolled into the camp, a man stood at the edge of the field, waving the wagons into place. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with neatly combed dark hair and a sharp jawline. His clothes were clean and well-fitted, and even from a distance Bella could tell he carried himself with confidence. "Who's that?" Bella asked, her curiosity piqued. "That's the boss," Milo said, his tone neutral. The man approached as the wagons came to a halt, his stride purposeful. As he drew closer, Bella couldn't help but notice the way the sunlight caught the angles of his face, highlighting his striking features. He was younger than she'd expected, probably in his late 20s, and he smelled faintly of cologne, a clean, woodsy scent that was a stark contrast to the earthy, sweat-soaked men she was used to. "Welcome to Holland," the man said, his voice smooth and warm. "I'm Mr. Vandermeer, but you can call me Jacob. I'll be your boss while you're here." He smiled, and Bella felt her cheeks flush. She quickly looked away, focusing on the tulips instead. Jacob's eyes scanned the group, but they lingered on Bella for a moment longer than necessary. "You must be new," he said, addressing her directly. Bella hesitated, unsure how to respond. Yes, I'm Bella." Jacob nodded, his smile widening. "Well, Bella, welcome. I hope you'll find the work here to your liking." Milo cleared his throat, stepping slightly in front of Bella. "We're ready to get started. Just tell us where you need us." Jacob's gaze shifted to Milo, his smile never faltering. "Of course. You can unload your things over there and set up camp. Once you're settled, we'll get to work." As Jacob walked away to greet the other workers, Anthony leaned over, a mischievous grin on his face. "Well, well, Bella. Looks like someone's got an admirer." Bella shot him a warning look. "Don't start, Anthony." Anthony ignored her, turning to Milo. "Did you see the way he looked at her? Like she was the only tulip in the field." Milo's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, busying himself with unloading the wagon. The camp was quickly set up, and the workers were sent into the orchards to begin their new jobs. The apple trees were just beginning to bloom, their delicate white flowers a stark contrast to the vibrant tulips below. Bella found herself assigned to a row near the edge of the field, where the breeze carried the scent of blossoms and fresh earth. As she worked, she couldn't help but reflect on how different this place felt from the blackberry fields. The air was lighter, the colors brighter, and even the work seemed less grueling. Anthony, of course, found ways to make the day entertaining. "Hey, Bella," he called from a few rows over. "Do you think Jacob's going to come check on you? Maybe bring you a bouquet of tulips?" Bella rolled her eyes, trying to hide her smile. "Don't you have work to do, Anthony?" "I'm multitasking," he said, grinning. "Picking apples and matchmaking, it's a gift." Milo, working nearby, shot Anthony a glare. "Enough, Anthony." Anthony held up his hands in mock surrender. All right. I'll behave. For now." By the end of the day, Bella was exhausted, but content. The work had been steady but manageable, and the beauty of the orchards had made the hours pass quickly. As she walked back to the camp with Milo, she couldn't help but notice his silence. "Are you all right?" she asked, glancing at him. Milo nodded, his eyes fixed on the ground. "Yeah, just tired." Bella sensed there was more to it, but she decided not to press him. Instead, she focused on the warmth of the evening air and the soft glow of the beautiful setting sun. When they reached the camp, Anthony was already sitting by the fire, a mischievous glint in his eye. "So, Bella," he said, leaning back on his elbows. "What did you think of our new boss? Handsome, isn't he?" Bella sighed, shaking her head. "Anthony, I swear—" "Don't deny it," Anthony interrupted, grinning. "I saw the way you blushed when he talked to you, and Milo saw it too, didn't you, Milo?" Milo shot Anthony a warning look. "Drop it, Anthony." Anthony smirked but said no more, clearly enjoying himself. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Bella sat by the fire, her thoughts drifting. The day had been beautiful, the work fulfilling, but there was an undercurrent of tension she couldn't ignore. Milo's silence, Jacob's lingering gaze, and Anthony's teasing all swirled in her mind, leaving her feeling both hopeful and uncertain. For now, though, she chose to focus on the beauty around her, the tulips, the apple blossoms, and the promise of a new beginning. Chapter 8. A Heart Divided. Holland, Michigan was everything Bella had dreamed of and more. The tulips swayed gently in the breeze, their vibrant colors a constant reminder of the beauty in the world. The apple orchards stretched endlessly, their trees heavy with fruit that glistened in the sunlight. The work was easier than the grueling days in the blackberry fields, and the pay was better too. Bella found herself enjoying the simple pleasures of the new place, biting into crisp, sweet apples, feeling the warm sun on her face, and breathing in the fresh floral air. For a while, it felt like a fresh start. But even in the midst of all this beauty, Bella's heart was heavy. At first, she tried to ignore it. Milo had always been kind and attentive, and she told herself that his occasional absences were nothing to worry about. He was just busy, she thought, helping the other workers or adjusting to the new routine. But as the days turned into weeks, it became harder to deny what was happening. Milo was spending more and more time with Maria. It started with small things, helping her carry baskets of apples, walking with her to the camp after work, or sitting near her at meals. Bella told herself it was nothing, that Milo was just being polite. But then she began to notice the way he looked at Maria, the way his face softened when she laughed, the way he seemed to seek her out even when there was no reason to. Bella's heart ached as she watched it unfold. One afternoon, as Bella worked in the orchard, she saw Milo and Maria a few rows over. Maria was laughing at something Milo had said, her dark hair catching the sunlight as she tilted her head back. Milo was smiling too, his expression warm and unguarded in a way Bella hadn't seen in weeks. Bella's hands stilled, the apple she had been reaching for slipping from her grasp and landing softly in the grass. "Bella?" She turned to see Anthony standing nearby, his usual grin replaced by a look of concern. "You all right?" he asked, his voice unusually gentle. Bella forced a smile, brushing her hands on her apron. "I'm fine. Just dropped my apple." Anthony followed her gaze, his eyes narrowing as he spotted Milo and Maria. He let out a low whistle. "Well, isn't that something?" "Anthony, don't," Bella said, her voice trembling. Anthony turned back to her, his expression softening. "I'm sorry, Bella. I didn't mean to." "It's fine," she said quickly, cutting him off. I need to get back to work." Anthony hesitated, then nodded. "All right. But if you need someone to talk to, you know where to find me." Bella nodded, grateful for his kindness, but she couldn't bring herself to say anything more. That evening, as the workers gathered around the campfire, Bella sat quietly, her hands resting on her belly. Milo was sitting across from her, but his attention was on Maria, who was chatting animatedly with a group of women. Bella watched as Milo laughed at something Maria said, his eyes lingering on her in a way that began to crush Bella. Anthony, sitting beside Bella, leaned over and whispered, "You don't have to put up with this, you know." Bella shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "What choice do I have, Anthony? We're here now. I can't just leave." Anthony looked sternly, his usual humor replaced by a rare seriousness. "You deserve better, Bella. Don't forget that." Bella didn't respond. She couldn't. The days passed, and the distance between Bella and Milo grew. He still spoke to her, still helped her when she needed it, but the warmth that had once defined their relationship was gone. Bella tried to tell herself that it was just her imagination, that Milo was still the same man who had stood by her through the rainy season and the long journey north. But deep down, she knew the truth. Milo's heart wasn't hers anymore. One evening as they sat by the fire, Bella finally found the courage to confront him. "Milo," she said softly, her voice trembling. He looked at her, his expression guarded. "What is it?" Bella hesitated, her hands twisting in her lap. Is there something you're not telling me?" Milo frowned, his brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" "You've been different," Bella said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Distant. And I see the way you look at Maria." Milo's eyes widened, and for a moment, he said nothing. Then he sighed. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" she asked, her voice breaking. Milo hesitated, his gaze dropping to the ground. "I don't know," he admitted. She's kind and easy to talk to. But that doesn't mean I don't care about you, Bella." Bella's heart ached at his words. "But not in the same way anymore, right?" Milo didn't answer, and his silence spoke volumes. That night, as Bella lay in her tent, she stared up at the canvas ceiling, her mind racing. She had come so far, endured so much, and now it felt like everything was slipping away. The beauty of Holland, the sweetness of the apples, and the warmth of the sun all felt hollow in the face of her heartbreak. But as she rested her hand on her belly, she reminded herself of the life growing inside her. No matter what happened with Milo, she would keep going, for her child, for herself, and for the future she still believed in. Chapter 9. A New Opportunity. There was a sweet smell in the air as the days grew warmer, and the orchards buzzed with life. Bella worked steadily, her hands moving through the apple trees like she knew what she was doing, but her heart was heavy. Milo's distance and his obvious affection for Maria were impossible to ignore. She tried to focus on work, on the beauty of the tulips and the orchards, but the thought of it was still heartbreaking. She wondered why she was even still there. It was during one of these long, quiet days that Jacob Vandermeer, the boss, approached her. "Bella," he said, his smooth voice breaking through her thoughts. She turned, startled to see him standing there, his hands tucked casually into the pockets of his neatly pressed trousers. He looked as polished as ever, his dark hair combed back and his shirt spotless despite the dust and dirt of the orchards. "Mr. Vandermeer," she said, brushing her hands on her apron. "Is something wrong?" He smiled, his gaze warm. "Not at all. I just wanted to check in on you. You've been working hard and I noticed you've been looking a little tired lately." Bella hesitated, unsure how to respond. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Just a lot on my mind, I suppose." Jacob studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "You're not just fine, Bella. I can see it. You're carrying more than just apples out here." His eyes flicked briefly to her growing belly and his voice softened. "You shouldn't be working so hard in your condition." Bella's cheeks flushed and she looked away. "I don't have much of a choice. I need the work." Jacob nodded, his gaze steady. "I understand, but I think I might have a solution." Bella tilted her head and questioned. "A solution?" Jacob smiled again, his charm undeniable. "I could use some help in the office. It's not much, just keeping track of the books, organizing schedules, that sort of thing. It's easier work, and it pays better than the orchards. I think you'd be perfect for it." Bella blinked, taken aback. "You want me to work in the office? With you?" Jacob nodded. "Yes, you're smart, hardworking, and I think you'd do a great job. Plus, it would give you a chance to rest a bit more. You shouldn't be out here all day, especially not with a baby on the way." Bella hesitated, her mind racing. The offer was tempting. Better pay, easier work, and a chance to escape the tension of the orchards. But she couldn't ignore the way Jacob was looking at her, the warmth in his eyes that went beyond professional concern. I don't know," she said finally. "I'd have to think about it." Jacob nodded, his expression understanding. "Of course. Take your time. But the offer stands, Bella. I'd like to help you if I can. That evening, as Bella sat by the fire, she replayed the conversation in her mind. Jacob's kindness had caught her off guard, and she couldn't deny the appeal of his offer. But she also couldn't ignore the way Milo had reacted when he saw Jacob talking to her earlier. Milo had been watching from a distance, his jaw tight and his eyes dark. He hadn't said anything, but Bella could feel the tension radiating from him. Anthony, of course, had noticed too. "So," he said, plopping down beside Bella with a grin. "What did the boss want? A private tour of the tulip fields?" Bella rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed. "He offered me a job in the office." Anthony's eyebrows shot up. "The office? Fancy. What'd you say?" "I told him I'd think about it," Bella said, her voice quiet. Anthony studied her for a moment, his grin fading. "You should take it, Bella. It's a good opportunity, and you deserve a break." Bella looked at him, surprised by his sincerity. "You really think so?" Anthony nodded. "Yeah. And if Milo has a problem with it, that's his problem, not yours." Bella sighed, her gaze drifting to the fire. "I don't know, Anthony. It feels complicated." Anthony smirked, his humor returning. "Life's always complicated, Bella. But sometimes you've just got to do what's best for you." The next morning, Bella found herself standing outside the small office near the edge of the orchard. The door was open and she could see Jacob inside, bent over a stack of papers. He looked up as she approached, his face lighting up with a smile. "Bella," he said, standing and motioning for her to come in. "I wasn't sure if you'd come." Bella stepped inside, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. "I thought about what you said. And I'd like to take the job." Jacob's smile widened. "I'm glad to hear that. I think you'll do great here." He showed her around the office, explaining her duties and where everything was kept. The work was straightforward, and Bella quickly found herself settling into the new routine. As the days passed, she began to enjoy the quiet of the office, the chance to sit and rest while still contributing. Jacob was always kind and patient, and she couldn't help but notice the way he went out of his way to make her feel comfortable. But his attention didn't go unnoticed. One afternoon, as Bella was leaving the office, she found Milo waiting for her outside. His expression was tense, his arms crossed over his chest. "Busy day?" he asked, his tone sharp. Bella was confused by his attitude. "It was fine. Why?" Milo shrugged, his eyes narrowing. "Just seems like you're spending a lot of time with the boss lately." Bella's heart sank. "Milo, it's just a job. He offered it to me because he was worried about me working in the orchards." Milo started gritting his teeth. "Yeah, I'm sure that's the only reason." Bella stared at him, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "What's that supposed to mean?" Milo looked away, his hands clenching into fists. "Nothing. Forget it." Bella shook her head, her voice trembling. "No, Milo. You don't get to do this. You've been spending all your time with Maria and I haven't said a word. But now that I have a chance to do something better for myself, you're upset?" Milo didn't say a word, his silence speaking volumes. Bella took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "I'm taking this job, Milo, and if you can't handle that, then maybe you need to figure out what you really want." With that, she turned and walked away, her heart pounding. As the sun set over the orchards, Bella sat outside the office, watching the tulips sway in the breeze. Jacob appeared a moment later, carrying 2 cups of tea. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing her a cup. Bella smiled, grateful for the gesture. "Thank you." They sat in silence for a while, the warmth of the tea and the beauty of the evening easing some of Bella's tension. "I'm glad you're here, Bella," Jacob said softly, wanting her to notice his gaze. "Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Bella looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. For the first time in weeks, she felt seen, valued, and cared for. And for the first time, she began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, her heart had room for something new. Chapter 10. Torn between two worlds. The days in Holland grew longer and warmer, the orchards alive with the hum of work and the laughter of the workers. Bella really liked her new role in the office, and though the work was easier on her body, her heart felt heavier with each passing day. Jacob van der Meer, the boss, had been sweet and kind to her. He was patient, thoughtful, and attentive in a way that Bella wasn't used to. He often brought her tea during the long afternoons, asked about her well-being, and even made sure she had a comfortable chair to sit in. His presence was steady and reassuring, and Bella couldn't help but feel a growing sense of affection for him. But outside the office, things were far more complicated. The women in the camp had started whispering about Bella. She could feel their eyes on her as she walked to and from the office, their hushed voices carrying just enough for her to catch snippets of their conversations. "She doesn't belong here," one of them said. "She's just trying to get close to the boss," another added. "She's trouble, that one. Mark my words." All the words she has heard before. Bella tried to ignore them, but their words stung. She had always felt like an outsider, but now it seemed like the women were determined to make her feel like she was. It wasn't long before their whispers reached Milo. One evening, as Bella returned to the camp after a long day in the office, she found Milo waiting for her. His arms were crossed, and she could tell he was upset. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low. Bella sighed, already bracing herself for the conversation. "What is it, Milo?" He hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "The women have been talking about you. They're saying you don't fit in, that you're just here to cause trouble." Bella's heart sank. "And you believe them?" Milo ran a hand through his hair, his frustration evident. "I don't know what to believe, Bella. You've changed since we got here. You're always with Jacob, and it's like you don't even care about the rest of us anymore." Bella stared at him, her voice trembling. "That's not fair, Milo. I took the job because it was better for me and the baby. You know that." Milo shook his head. "Maybe. But it feels like you're leaving us behind, like you're leaving me behind." Bella took a breath, her emotions swirling. "Milo, you've been distant for weeks now. You've been spending all your time with Maria. She apparently loves you and I haven't said a word. You obviously have feelings for her too. But now that I'm doing something for myself, suddenly I'm the one who's wrong." Milo didn't respond, his silence cutting deeper than any words could. That night, Bella sat alone outside her tent, staring up at the stars. The camp was quiet, the only sounds the rustling of the trees and the distant hum of crickets. She leaned back in the chair, her thoughts racing. How had things gotten so complicated? She thought about Milo, about the way he had been there for her during the rainy season, the way he had made her laugh when things felt hopeless. But she also thought about Maria, about the way Milo looked at her now, and the way he had pulled away from Bella without even realizing it. And then there was Jacob. Jacob, who had shown her kindness when she needed it most. Jacob, who made her feel seen and valued in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Jacob, who looked at her like she was more than just another worker in the camp. Bella's heart ached as she thought about the two men, about the two very different lives they lived. Milo was her past, her connection to the world she had come from. Jacob was something new, something she wasn't sure she was ready for but couldn't ignore. And then there was the baby. Bella placed both hands on her belly, her eyes filling with tears. How was she going to raise a child in the middle of all this? She wanted to give her baby a good life, a stable life, but she didn't know how to do that when her own life felt so uncertain. The next day, as Bella worked in the office, Jacob noticed her quiet demeanor. "Bella," he said gently, setting down the papers he had been reviewing. "Is everything all right?" Bella hesitated, unsure how much to share. "I'm just thinking about a lot of things." Jacob leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. "Do you want to talk about it?" Bella looked at him, her heart aching with the weight of her emotions. "I don't know what to do, Jacob. Everything feels so complicated. Jacob nodded, his expression understanding. Life has a way of doing that, doesn't it? Bella managed a small smile. It does. Jacob hesitated for a moment, then leaned forward, his voice soft. Bella, I don't know everything you're going through, but I do know this. You're strong, and whatever decision you make, I know you'll do what's best for you and your baby. Bella felt a lump rise in her throat at his words. Thank you, Jacob. That means a lot. Jacob smiled, his gaze warm. You're welcome. And just so you know, I'm here for you, whatever you need. Bella nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude as a tear ran down her cheek, and something else she couldn't quite name. A few days passed. Bella found herself growing closer to Jacob. He was always there with a kind word or a thoughtful gesture, and now she couldn't help but feel drawn to him. At the same time, she was slowly losing the memories of her time with Milo and the connection they had once shared. Bella was torn between two worlds, the familiar and the new, the past and the future. And as much as she wanted to find clarity, the answers seemed just out of reach. For now, all she could do was take things one day at a time and hope that, somehow, she would find her way. Chapter 11. The orchards were quieter now, the trees nearly bare as apple season came to a close. The workers were packing up their belongings, their wagons loaded with supplies as they prepared to move on to the next harvest. The air was filled with a bittersweet energy, excitement for the road ahead, but sadness at leaving behind the beauty of Holland. Bella stood at the edge of the orchard, resting a little as she watched the workers scurry about. The tulips were still in bloom, their vibrant colors swaying gently in the breeze. She loved this place, the peace, the beauty, the sense of stability it gave her. But now, as the season ended, she was faced with a choice she wasn't sure how to make. Milo approached her that afternoon, Maria trailing behind him. They were a couple now, and it was clear to everyone. Maria clung to Milo's arm, her dark eyes sparkling as she laughed at something he said. Bella felt a twinge in her chest, but it was duller now, less sharp than it had been before. Bella, Milo said, stopping a few feet away. We're heading out tomorrow. There's work picking watermelons and strawberries down south. You should come with us. Bella looked at him, her heart heavy. Milo, I don't know if that's the right life for me anymore. Milo's face wrinkling, his brow furrowing. What do you mean? You've been on the road with us this whole time. Why stop now? Bella hesitated, glancing at Maria, who was watching her with a smug expression. It's not just about me, Milo. I have to think about the baby. What kind of life would that be? Always moving, never settling down? How would I give my child a chance to go to school, to have a stable life? Milo opened his mouth to respond, but he didn't seem to have an answer. Instead, he said, Everybody else seems to do it just fine. You've changed, Bella, he said finally, his voice low. Bella nodded, her voice fixed. I have. And maybe it's time I started thinking about what's best for me and my baby. Milo didn't say anything else. He just nodded, a flicker of something, regret, perhaps, crossing his face before he turned and walked away with Maria. That evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, the sky was as red as the apples. Bella sat outside the office, lost in her thoughts. She had spent so much of her life moving from place to place, chasing the next harvest, the next paycheck. But now, with a baby on the way, she couldn't help but dream of something more. Jacob found her there, his hands tucked into his pockets as he approached. Mind if I join you? He asked, his voice soft. Bella shook her head, offering him a small smile. Not at all. He sat beside her, the silence between them comfortable. For a while, neither of them spoke, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Jacob broke the silence. You're not going with them, are you? Bella shook her head. No, I can't. It's not the life I want for my baby. Jacob nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. I'm glad to hear that. Bella glanced at him, surprised. You are? Jacob turned to her, his dark eyes warm and earnest. "Bella, I've been wanting to tell you something for a while now. I just didn't know how." Bella's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" Jacob took a deep breath, his hands fidgeting slightly, a rare sign of nervousness from the usually calm, composed man. "The first day you arrived here, when I saw you in that wagon, I knew you were special. There was something about you, something I couldn't ignore. And the more I've gotten to know you, the more I've realized—" He paused, his voice softening. "Bella, I'm in love with you. I can't hide it anymore." Bella stared at him, her breath catching in her throat. "Jacob, He held his finger up and touched her lips. "Shh. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. But I also need you to know this. I want you to stay. Not just because I love you, but because I think you could have a beautiful life here. A stable life. For you and your baby. I will love it just as much as I love you." Bella's eyes filled with tears as she looked at him, her heart swelling with emotions she couldn't quite understand. She had been so focused on surviving, on getting through each day, that she hadn't allowed herself to think about what she truly wanted. The braided women were right. I didn't belong. Jacob reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, simple ring. "Bella, I know this is sudden, but I don't want to waste any more time. Will you marry me? Will you stay here with me and build a life together with me?" Bella's heart raced as she looked at the ring, then back at Jacob. She thought about the life she had lived, the struggles she had faced, and the dreams she had for her child. And then she thought about Jacob, his kindness, his steadiness, the way he made her feel safe and valued. A tear slipped down her cheek as she nodded, a smile breaking through her tears. "Yes, Jacob, I'll marry you." Jacob's face lit up with joy as he slipped the ring onto her finger. He cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle but firm, and leaned in. As their lips met in a slow, tender kiss, the world seemed to fade away. The tulips swayed in the breeze around them, their vibrant colors glowing in the fading light. It was a kiss filled with promise, with hope, and with the beginning of a new chapter in Bella's life. For the first time, Bella felt total peace. She had found her place, her home, and her future, all in the beautiful apple orchards of Holland, surrounded by tulips in every color of the rainbow. Chapter 12. A New Forever. The days in Holland passed like a dream, each one more beautiful than the last. The apple orchards, now quiet after the harvest, stood as a reminder of the life Bella had chosen. The tulips, vibrant and endless, painted the fields in colors that seemed to stretch into eternity. For the first time in her life, Bella felt like she belonged somewhere, not just in a place, but in a life she could call her own. Her wedding to Jacob was simple but perfect. The workers who had stayed behind gathered in the orchard, the tulips swaying gently in the breeze as Bella walked down the makeshift aisle. She wore a modest white dress, her red hair pinned up with a few loose curls framing her face. Jacob stood waiting for her beneath the shade of an apple tree, his dark eyes filled with love and admiration. Anthony, of course, couldn't resist cracking a joke as Bella passed him. "Well, Bella, I guess you're officially out of my league now." Bella laughed softly, shaking her head. "You were never in my league, Anthony." The small crowd chuckled, and even Jacob smiled as Bella reached him. He took her hands in his touch steady and warm, and as they exchanged vows, Bella felt a sense of peace she had never known before. The weeks after the wedding were filled with quiet joy. Bella and Jacob settled into their new life together, working side by side to care for the orchard and prepare for the arrival of the baby. Jacob insisted on building a small nursery in the house, painting the walls a soft yellow and filling the room with handmade furniture. "You don't have to do all this," Bella said one evening as she watched him assemble a rocking chair. Jacob looked up at her, his smile soft. "I want to. This baby is as much mine as it is yours, Bella. I want to give them everything." Bella's heart swelled at his words. She had never imagined she would find someone like Jacob, someone who loved her so completely, who saw her not as a burden but as a blessing. One afternoon, as Bella walked through the orchard, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the blackberry fields, the rainy season, and the long, grueling journey to Michigan. She thought about Milo, about the way he had once been her anchor, and how they had drifted apart. Milo and Maria had left shortly after the wedding, heading south to pick watermelons and strawberries. Bella had wished them well, and though there was still a small ache in her heart when she thought of Milo, she knew she had made the right choice. Her life was here now, in Holland, with Jacob and the baby they would soon welcome into the world. As the months passed, the orchard began to bloom again, the apple trees bursting with blossoms and the tulips returning in full force. Bella stood on the porch of their small house, her hands resting on her now very round belly, and watched as Jacob worked in the orchard. He looked up and saw her, waving with a smile that made her heart flutter. She waved back, her cheeks flushing as she thought about how much she loved him. "Careful, Bella," Anthony's voice echoed in her mind, teasing as always. "You're starting to look like a woman in love." She laughed softly to herself, shaking her head. "I guess I am," she whispered. The baby arrived on a warm spring morning, just as the tulips were at their peak. Jacob was by Bella's side the entire time, holding her hand and whispering words of encouragement. When their daughter was finally placed in Bella's arms, she felt a wave of love so powerful it brought tears to her eyes. "She's perfect," Jacob said, his voice thick with emotion as he looked at their baby girl. Bella smiled, her heart full. "She is." They named her Lily, after the flowers that surrounded them, and from that moment on, their little family felt complete. Years passed, and the orchard became a place of laughter and love. Lily grew up running through the tulip fields, her red hair shining in the sunlight as she played among the blossoms. Bella and Jacob worked side by side, building a life that was as beautiful as the land they called home. Every evening, as the sun set over the orchard, Jacob would take Bella's hand and pull her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Are you happy?" he would ask, his voice soft. Bella would smile, leaning into him. "More than I ever thought I could be." And as they stood together, surrounded by the beauty of the tulips and the apple trees, Bella knew she had found her forever. The life she had dreamed of, the love she had longed for, it was all here, in the beautiful orchards of Holland, Michigan, where the tulips swayed in the breeze and the colors of the rainbow painted the horizon. As the sun dipped below the trees, Jacob leaned in and kissed her, slow and tender, a kiss filled with all the love and promise of the life they had built together. And for Bella, it was the perfect ending to one chapter and the beginning of a beautiful new one. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more captivating tales. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless. See you in the next video.